Okay, welcome back. This is a video about proving a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. What we're going to do is we're going to complete the steps to prove that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, apply properties of parallelograms to solve for unknown values, and then analyze the figure to determine whether it is a parallelogram. So we have this generic parallelogram down here, and this is separate from what we have for this problem down here, okay? And so a lot of this is just going to be me taking this information that you have here and labeling this parallelogram. And so we've got the converse of the parallelogram side theorem. So what it says is that if you are given a situation where you know that both pairs of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, okay, so here's what I know. Let's say you're just given a picture. It says AD is congruent to BC and that AB is congruent to DC. If you are given this information, then you know that quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram, okay? So if you know that all opposite sides are congruent, you get a parallelogram. It says if you know that if both pairs of opposite angles of a quadrilateral are congruent, then you have a parallelogram. So if I come in here and I say, all right, angle D is congruent to angle B, angle A is congruent to angle C, okay? So if that's the case, if I see a picture and I have that information, I know that we have a parallelogram, okay? If the diagonals are bisected, so I'm going to come in here, draw in my diagonals, okay? If these are bisected, and I have those symbols, and I know that piece of information, then I have a quadrilateral or a parallelogram. Okay. The other thing is the single opposite side pair theorem. If one pair of opposite sides of a quadrilateral is both congruent and parallel, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if I just know that AB is congruent to DC and they're also parallel, okay, then I know that we are congruent, or that we have a parallelogram. Same thing with AD and BC. If I know that these are congruent and parallel, then I have a parallelogram, okay? All right, so on the other one, we said, you know, and here's the difference between section 1 and section 3. Here you're given information and you conclude that you have a parallelogram. Okay, so section 3, and I'm going to write that up here, is that you are given information and we conclude whether or not we have a parallelogram, whether or not we have a parallelogram. Okay. In section 2, it said, here, you have a parallelogram. Now, here are all the things that we can say about a parallelogram. Okay. Here, you're just given information, and you have to determine, okay, is this information enough to tell me that I have a parallelogram? Okay. So now, let's take a look at this down here. Okay, and it says that ABCD is a quadrilateral. Okay, it's got 4 sides. I agree. Okay, then it tells us that AB, this segment, is congruent to DC. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and put that these are congruent. Okay, I also know that AD, wait a minute. AD, yes. Okay, AD is congruent to BC. All right, I also know that. And we can just tell by the measures, okay? You know, I can just tell that this is 8 meters, this is 8 meters. That means these two parts are congruent. I know this is 12 meters and this is 12 meters, so these two lengths are congruent. So the question is this a parallelogram? And the bigger question is, I mean, the answer is yes, but why? Okay? And that's the question. You got to be able to answer that why part of this. And so when I look back and it says, okay, opposite sides are congruent, okay, then I have a parallelogram, and it's from this first one. So the reason why is that it's the converse of the parallelogram side theorem. So it's the converse. So it's yes because of the converse of parallel side theorem. Okay? So it's this section, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. It's very, very similar to section 2. Okay? It's just going backwards. It's going, here in section 2 you were given, hey, I have a parallelogram. Here are all the things that I can say about that. But now you're given a figure with some facts, and you have to say, well, is it a parallelogram? So it's just pretty much, section 3 is just backwards from section 2. So if you got section 2 pretty well, section 3 will go very easy. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.